Continue to follow that deadly bus crash. The National Transportation Safety Board expects to remain in the area for much of the week.
Their investigation is running parallel to one being conducted now by New York State Police. We're joined now by Troop A Public Information Officer James O'Callahan. Trooper, thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let's talk first about kind of this scene. It was chaotic on Friday, no doubt. There were responders, dozens of them responding from Niagara, Erie, Genesee counties. People were helping coming off the highway. This was absolutely crazy. I remember talking to you in the wake after that. Friday evening, you talked about the press conference that you provided. There was so much information and so much was happening. How do you handle that? How do first responders, someone in your position, a PIO, how do you handle that? Because you have to get a message out and it has to be soon.
And that was the priority. The priority is people, right? We can't change the event. Everyone trains, first responders, medical, us, a lot of times emergency management. We train for something like this, but it's very different when you go from a training to a practical. And this is where all of that comes in. Naturally, you're going to go and help people one at a time. You're going to do triage. Who needs the most help first? And we're going to go so on and so forth. The hardest part about this is the language barrier. Nobody spoke English. So we're using language line, Google Translate. We're using translators that were coming in. And so very effectively, but as quick as possible. But I'll tell you what, when someone's hurting, you can look them in the eye and you can see, I'm hurt, I'm hurting here. They're holding an appendage. You know that's the thing that needs to get fixed. And like I said, we had a lot of EMS. We had a Mercy flight, piling up helicopters along the median. We got the response that we needed and the help that we needed immediately. And people are the priority, and then we'll work on everything else after the fact.
Yeah. Any update, 5:15 tonight on this crash, the investigation into it, and a cause?
So we're looking at a couple different things. You said before, National Traffic Safety Board, we're working with them. Actually, they're working with all of our separate units through this week, going through the evidence that we have, the bus and the different things. What is taking a little bit longer, and a lot of people want to know the cause. What's the cause? We said that the driver may have had a distraction. That is true. We have done interviews. The driver's cooperative. Everyone that we've interviewed that was close sitting next to the driver area are cooperative, the bus company's cooperative, but it would be, we can't just throw out, well, everyone kind of agrees that this is what happened, but we want to make sure we look at everything being the footage, the camera footage that bus would supply. When we look at that, and right now it's not as fast as everyone was seeing, everyone's probably like, well, why don't you just look at it? Well, we have to get warrants. We have to get warrants drawn up to go on that bus right now, to go through the evidence. There's still a lot of pieces of evidence within that bus, phones, maybe someone was on something, captured a moment while the bus is driving. We have to get all of the warrants in place to move forward with the next step, and that will be through this week. And when that happens, we will come out with at least an idea or a better conclusion to the why.
You had mentioned that the driver has been, and you said this even on Friday and the minutes after this happened, that the driver was cooperating, he was alert, he was fine walking around. Has the company, to the best of your knowledge, been cooperative with the investigation, either through state police or, if you have secondhand knowledge from the NTSB, have they been equally as open and cooperative as the driver?
Yes, they have. The company's been cooperative, the driver's been cooperative. Obviously, everyone's got their lawyers and their things. NTSB is working on their end, we're working our end. But like I said, there's nothing to hide. Everyone is just being very upfront and honest. There's no red flags. The bus passes all the inspections, the company's on. And right now, it's just a matter of finding out the why. Like I said, we have a fairly good idea, but until we see all the evidence, we're not going to make that determination until that time.
It very well could be an accident, what you're saying. It could be an accident.
Correct.
We have a story about seatbelts. Our Patrick Ryan was following that today. A little unclear if the law states that this bus, people on it needed to be wearing seatbelts. So we're going to continue following that. But you are saying that seatbelts, people who were wearing them, they could have saved lives in this crash.
Yes, and you hate to look, post-event and say, what could we have done? And point blame, I guess you would say. But when we look at this, when I stood there in front of that bus, standing on the glass and the clothing and all the stuff on the ground and looking at that, I was like, there are going to be a lot of fatalities with this. So only to have 5, and 5 is still, we lost 5 people, but to just have 5 standing there looking that day, I think would even be a miracle in itself. The amount of damage and just the totality of this collision with 50+ people on it, the seatbelts would have made a difference. It's New York State law to have seatbelts in passenger vehicles, school buses, and obviously buses. The law is written a little different. 2016 manufacture date. This is a 2005. I understand that, but at the end of the day, it's still a bus. And we always, push people to wear the seatbelt. You don't know who's driving. Every time you get on a road, it doesn't matter if you're in an Uber or Lyft, wherever you're going to be with a family member. The safest thing you can do is put your seatbelt on. That saves lives. It's statistically proven. And we just want to remind people, no matter what you're riding in, please wear your seatbelt. I guess that's what it comes down to. We definitely believe that could have changed the outcome in this scenario.
It likely saved lives here in this situation. Troop A, Public Information Officer Jim O'Callahan. Jim, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Trooper.